Hello, and what is going on, everybody? It is Tuesday, September 23rd. Welcome into the walkthrough presented by Tilly's Warehouse, located in the heart of 5 Points. Three big things tonight. What happened to the Gamecocks in CoMo, the importance of Kentucky, and pulse of the fan base with Morgan and Mr. Retweeter, all that and more right after the intro. Let's go.
I guess you wonder where I've been. I searched to.
Yes, indeed. We are back at it. It's another Tuesday night. You know what it is. It's the walkthrough, per usual. But yeah, going a tough week for Gamecock football this week. Again, losing 20-9 in Columbia, Missouri, to Mizzou. Excuse me, to Mizzou. It's a tough game on the road. Tough way to follow up on your loss to Vanderbilt. Not exactly what you wanted. Again, you lose by 9 points. Effect. I mean, the lead here is obviously the 14 penalties for 98 yards, but we'll get through all of that as well. But, I mean, plain and simple, South Carolina didn't do what they needed to do in Columbia, right? You got your butt kicked, on certain fronts, and you basically, you were still in the game, right? I mean, there were a lot of good things as well. But, again, basically what it boils down to is you weren't able to execute on the things you needed to do to win. When we were going into this week, right, we were talking about a lot about the things that they had to do, and that was stop the run. Well, that didn't go as planned, right? You also had to bring the effort and intensity on defense. Didn't do that either, right? No bueno on defense. You had a lot of guys. Again, it didn't look like there was cohesion, right? You didn't feel like you were on the same page. Felt like they were playing as different position groups and stuff like that. And so that was there too. But so you didn't execute on that. And then, lastly, you didn't find consistency on offense, right? If you talk about the three big things that they didn't execute on, or that they were supposed to execute on going into this week, and you didn't, it was plain and simple: stop the run, bring effort and intensity on defense, and find consistent execution on offense. And it did not go as planned for South Carolina, right? You didn't do a single one of those. And it just was not there for the Gamecocks, right? It didn't go your way. Lenore Sellers didn't have the game that you wanted him to. And granted, he was questionable going into this week, factoring in the concussion he sustained from Vanderbilt, right? So, he was going to be banged up, played like it for sure. Again, South Carolina, they're waiting on their permanent opponents here on SEC Network. I know we got a lot of people over there, but, it's just disappointing. Just a disappointment in CoMo. I'm sure a lot of the fan base can attest to that as well. Again, we'll have the pulse of the fan base here in a second, but again, abysmal, right? So when you break down the three things that they had to do, right? They failed to execute on their keys for sure. That was one thing, right? 14 penalties for 98 yards is bad, as you can read the headline. That's one of the things, obviously, effort and intensity on defense. And granted, the penalties weren't just on defense. It was on offense too. But, not good. Not good. You're not going to win football games with 14 penalties, as I believe it was. It just not good. 14 penalties for 98 yards compared to Missouri's 5 for 54. I think if South Carolina kept it under 10, they were going to probably win this game, right? But again, you had 4 extra for 98 yards. That's almost 100 extra yards you're giving to Missouri throughout the portion of this football game, and that's just not going to do you any favors, right? So you failed to execute. Wasn't good on any of your keys, right? When you look at the stats, and obviously if you watch the game, you know exactly what we're talking about here. But, there were 3 rushers for Missouri. Yeah, again, stopping the run. 3 rushers for Missouri that went for 286, right? Pribula was sacked once, but he still had 72 yards rushing. That's not good, right? When the quarterback and the backup, the number 2 running back for Missouri are rushing for 70 plus, things are going wrong, right? And stopping the run, to me at least, is an effort thing. It really is an effort thing. We saw that from this defense in the second half against Vanderbilt, right? It was not clicking. It wasn't going the way that they wanted it to. And it just kind of continued to spiral, right? The penalties added up, and their positioning was great, but tackling, again, an effort thing. So, defense, again, didn't stop the run. And granted, Missouri, like you got to give Missouri their flowers too. One of the best rushing teams in the country, right? When you think about it, you factor it all in. One of the best rushing teams in the country. Eli Drinkwitz has been able to have, program setting record rushing back or running backs, in these last few years. So it's not a secret that they were going to run the football and they were going to run it effectively, right? It's really hard to knock them off of their game. And, South Carolina, it seemed to me that they had the mix on defense to do such a thing. But again, I guess the under experience on this defense maybe played position into that. But I don't know. This defense seemed frustrated. And typically, as you do with that Missouri trip, right? Like I feel like CoMo has been a house of horrors for South Carolina. And so it's just like it's been a house of horrors, and so you can't. This defense, I mean, it feels like every time you go up to Como, this defense plays flat, right? A house of horrors, if you will. It's just not good, not good. You can't tackle, and it just seems like every time that run game just beats and beats and beats and beats away at this defense, and they just can't. Like it's frustrating when you have to be disciplined, you have to play really hard and physical on every single play. I understand that it gets old. Saw that in this defense, right? It got old for that. Like they weren't playing like they wanted to, right? Like it was not the effort and intensity was not there. So in the run game, right? Main back Hardy goes for 138 yards, and the number 2 back goes for 76. Again, Bo Peribula probably would have been over 75 rushing yards as well, except he was sacked. So, and we know in college it somehow still plays into a quarterback's rushing yards. I don't understand that, but I don't make the rules. And again, I mean, the effort and intensity on defense, if the run game numbers aren't enough of an indication, right? They were 7 of 13 on third down. Missouri was 7 of 13 on third down. That's not going to get you anywhere. It really is not going to get you anywhere. When Missouri's converting better than 50% on third down, it's not good. It's not good. Not going to get you anywhere, especially on the road in the SEC against a quality team that can run the football. I mean, it's a lot of doom and gloom, but it's not great. Like that is not break our foot off in your what football, right? And we've seen that a lot, and college football is getting better and everything along with that. But it's not intense football. It's not we're better than you football, which we saw from this defense in the first 2 weeks. Plain and simple. They didn't, and what boggles my mind at least is that, I mean, you factor in, the 14 penalties, right? And granted, again, not all of them on defense. You had some frustration penalties, sure, but not all of them on defense. What I don't get about this defense is how you come out and you don't play with effort and intensity after what happened against Vanderbilt, right? I don't know if it's poor leadership. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't make any sense to me how they came out flat after getting your butts handed to you against Vandy like you did. And in front of your home fans, right? Like it seems like you should have to come out as physical and as wanting to generate turnovers, wanting to. And granted, they did generate one turnover, right? Talk about positives. Did generate one turnover, did force a turnover, right? But again, it's just like this team didn't play like they were frustrated. It's a lot of doom and gloom right now, but. And there's a big importance to Kentucky. True. Like it's basically a must win at this point. But again, it's not all doom and gloom for this football team, but this defense has to bring a better effort. I would expect it's going to show up against Kentucky, but no promises, right? Like you would think, and granted, again, long road trip, it takes a lot out of you. It's on the road. It's going to be hard to hear the signals and everything, but this defense didn't play like they were on the same page. Right. And again, all credit to Missouri, right? One of the best rushing attacks in the country. And Eli Drinkwitz seems to have South Carolina's number. He seems to have a lot of people's number recently, right? Like it happens. It happens. You weren't consistent on offense either. I'll get to more on the offensive here in a sec, but Dylan Stewart too. I guess we can talk about him as well. Didn't have the best game. I do have one thing on Dylan, right? Missing the alma mater is not a good sign, right? When you have guys that, I get it. It's frustration. You're trying to get out of there. And this is just the development, I guess, of a young player too, that he's at the turning point where, you either just become, a dog who's just frustrated and acts like, frustrated all the time and be like, man, it should be better, or he goes in and finds a leadership element to his game, right? And finds a way to lead guys by example. So I don't know. I think it's still in development, but missing the alma mater is not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. But again, he's also leading the team in missed tackles right now. So I guess it starts at the top, right? I think a little bit that we're seeing on offense with Lenore's missing some of the play calls and some of the communication, obviously falling on him. And people, I think there are people that are afraid to, to call out Lenoris, or I guess to admit that some of this falls on him, and it obviously does, right? Some of the communication from the offensive line, like eventually, I mean, personally, I thought that falls on him, right? Because he needs to be the one to take full control over that, right? Be the guy. Go be the guy. But so I don't know. Like it's not good. Dylan Stewart again. This could be a turning point for him, right? Again, I think it's either going to turn him into one heck of a leader for this football team, or it's going to put him to the point where he's like, I'm going to get drafted here soon, so I'm just going to go get me. Plain and simple, right? So I don't know. But I'm missing the alma mater is not a good sign. So and it happens too. It happens. I'm not like I get it. Sometimes you're just trying to get out of there, right? Maybe still being held. I mean, certainly a couple plays. There's holding on every play in college football, but I get it. But you got to have the wherewithal. You stay out there with your team. You're with your team and everything like that. So you have to just, try to get this kid to realize, hey, lead by example. Put everything you got out into it, and also like help him realize it. And it's hard, I guess, at this point too. He's got a lot of football left ahead of him. So it's hard to sell a kid who knows he's that talented, knows he's going to the league, right? On, hey, appreciate this while you got it. But I don't know. I still think there's, this could be a big point for them, big turning point. And we'll have to see for D Stu, but the alma mater thing is not good. We'll have to keep a note on that and keep going. But again, nonetheless, failed to execute. Again, that's the story from Missouri. 14 penalties. You guys can read the graphic. For 98 yards is bad. Not going to win any football games like that, right? One last thing before we get the fan panel here rolling, and everything like that. They didn't find consistent energy and execution on offense. We'll talk about the offensive side of football before we get to the fan panel. To the people apologize or continuing to apologize for Lenoris, like, he's not, or like isn't doing, or isn't part of the problem. Like it's crazy. Like it's not good. I think, 16 is human, right? And this is very much part of, his issue he needs to fix, right? I really think it is. Like, he's human. There's constant communication issues on the offensive end, and some of it, and also, I mean, talk about the overthrows on the final drive and stuff like that too. Like, passing, like missing throws is one thing, but the communication issue is something he's got to fix, right? And we know he's banged up and everything, and that was going to be a lot for him to handle, after following a concussion, right? And following everything, it was sort of following a concussion, it was all going to be really hard for him to fix. Really, really, really hard for him to fix. All in 1 week, right? So it's just tough. It's tough for him to figure that out, with especially dealing with a concussion, right? He's spending more time and we don't know how limited he was at practice. We just know that he was at practice. And so, we'll have to see how, if it continues, the communication issues. But again, the throws, the missed throws down the stretch, I'm not really worried about. We've seen him make those throws all the time, right? I think you can watch him play and know that he will make those throws down the stretch. Eventually. Like, I don't know. It's passing the ball, right? I guess he's just got to get it more of a muscle memory, fine tune the accuracy, but nobody's perfect throwing the football. I think there's a leadership element to it that also needs to be addressed. But again, it's kind of a combination of just being frustrated. We're seeing it across the board with this football team, right? Like, everyone is frustrated at how things are going. And, I don't know if this team's floor was bad enough from Missouri, or bad enough from Vanderbilt, for them to wake up. Plain and simple, right? So I think that's what we saw. It's a long road trip again. Like I mean, you get in the plane and you're far away from home. You're in a different time zone and all that. Tough road game. Missouri's, really developed as a program. So there were definitely people at that game. And as it looked on TV, certainly was. But I don't know. I think the run game also needs to come up around Lenore's and everything. I think, it's certainly something that was lacking. I don't know. The way that drives were being limited, I think in that game, you kind of have to stick with one. You didn't see Attaway or Faison really contribute, right? Either or of them. Both of them combined for 9 carries and 12 yards between two of your number one running backs, I guess, or your 1A and 1B running backs. Like, I get that you were trying to throw the ball around the yard, but eventually, like, you have to develop a run game. And I know Fuller got a carry in there too as well, I think. But you got to develop a run game, one way, shape, or form. And if drives are going to be limited, stick with Faison or Attaway, right? Stick with one of them and just go for it. Whichever one gives you the best chance to win. And that comes from a pass blocking standpoint and from a running standpoint, right? You might like one quality or another in the coach or in either player, but stick with one when the drives are going to be limited because those guys couldn't get into a rhythm. You flip flop too much and it just kind of kills your run game. It's not good. Not good. Anyways, so talked about the run game, talked about Lenore's. Lenore's finished, I guess, I mentioned this too. It's kind of dumb that college counts sacks towards the total, right? Towards the rushing total, but Lenore's finished with negative 28 rushing yards, was sacked 5 times. That's unacceptable. I think it's still a communication issue. We'll have to see. It's certainly with everything going into Kentucky, turns it into a must-win game, and that communication needs to be right back to where it was. We saw, even better than Virginia Tech. Like, I don't know if we've seen where it should be for like a baseline, maybe so. I guess Vatech, because the ebbs and flows of football, you won that game pretty handily, but just this offensive line has to get it down. And again, 16 is also human for sure. But anyways, so that's, I guess, the take of the Missouri. Talked a bunch about Kentucky in there too, as well, and the importance of it. But do want to get into the pulse of the fan base as I am now joined by my 2 panel members, Mr. Mobo and Mr. Gamecock Retweeter. Guys, how are we doing this Tuesday evening?
Well, would be doing better if we came out with a win Saturday, but other than that, pretty good.
Hey, good evening, guys. Good evening. Yeah, man, doing well, making it through another work week. Uh, Getting excited for another football game this weekend. Ready to put this other one behind us and sell out crowd in Columbia. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for joining me again tonight. There's not a whole lot of positivity to talk about, but I guess with everything going into this week with Lenore's being hurt, and the questions of Doty and also how good Missouri has looked after this week and how this game went. Does this, line up with expectations, win or lose? You only lost by 9, but it was a brutal way to lose by 9.
Yeah, I think we actually played better than I was expecting. Like, we played good football. It was just bad fundamental football, the procedural stuff and just things of that nature. But as far as like our passing game, Lenore's, everything looked sharp beside the procedural stuff. So
yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. I saw some of the things that I wanted to see on the offensive side of the ball. Lenore's didn't look great at times, and then he looked like a hero at times. Let's not let it slip by that there was 2 or 3 interceptions that were dropped. But there were some passes that only Lenore's and a couple other guys in this country can make that were made as well. So I liked what I saw, at least on the passing side of the offense, which is what I was looking for. But overall, we got to get better all the way around. I know we'll get into it here in a minute, but just overall, liked what I saw from Lenore's for the most part. But we got to get better overall.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Obviously, the effort is one thing I guess we'll lead with, because we saw it, I guess, dip in certain times. I don't know. It's the biggest thing that I found with this team in this game, right? The 14 penalties was not good, and we talked last week that tackling and a lot of that stuff goes into effort and stuff like that. I know it's a long road trip. And when you're on the road a lot, like it can certainly lead to fatigue and stuff like that. But guys, I mean, where did you think the effort was this week, and how big of a problem is that? Obviously, you lost the game, and your back is up against the wall to this point. But I mean, the effort was not great this weekend, guys.
So I haven't had a chance to rewatch the tape to see exact effort. What I mean by that is guys chasing guys down. Are we jogging? Are we sprinting? That sort of thing. The effort standpoint from tackling was awful. I caught myself 2 or 3 times Saturday night saying great tackle, and then all of a sudden Hardy's still running down the sideline. So from that standpoint, it was terrible. I don't want to lose focus, and I get called a homer a lot, and I get it. Maybe that's my old age. I don't want to lose focus on the fact that we had a lead at halftime. We had a lead at the end of the third quarter, and we were only down 6 points and having the ball 2 different times in the fourth quarter, down 6 points. Both of those were 3-and-outs, and that's awful. Um, I don't know. I say all that to say that everybody thought we were going to get blown out. This was going to be awful. Blah 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 blah. We're close. I think this defense is still gelling together. I still think there's talent on this defensive side of the ball. We got to tackle better. We've got to pursue better. Um, I'm not going to call out Dylan Stewart. I don't know what was going on at the end of the game, so I'm not going to talk about it. But what I am going to say is that guy's a phenomenal player, and we're lucky and blessed to have him on this team. I've never heard anything bad about him in the locker room, so I don't think it's anything like that personally. I think it was a frustrated player, um, frustrated after a frustrating loss, right? So I think that's all that was. So.
From an effort standpoint, defensively, it was just straight awful. In my honest opinion, it was terrible. Like Brad said, I mean, there was a bunch of plays where I'm standing up off the couch, cheering, and then next thing you know, he's running freely down the sideline. I'm like, dude, we had 2 or 3 guys just whiff on tackles, just hit them, not wrapped up. Man, it was extremely frustrating to watch, and yeah, it was pretty bad from an effort standpoint, in my opinion.
Hey, a little bit of breaking news, Joe. You want to get this out real quick?
Yeah, go for it. Is this the permanent opponents?
Well, it's all 9 next year. So we got Georgia at
Ooh.
home. We got Kentucky at home. We go to Florida, Mississippi State at home, Tennessee at home, Texas A&M at home. Then we go to Alabama, to Arkansas, and to Oklahoma.
So yeah, 3 permanent opponents being Georgia, Kentucky, Florida. Are you guys satisfied with those? Because it's got to be there's rivalry talks. I mean, amongst it too. And yeah, we'll get I guess the back half of this too. But starting with the permanent opponents, how do you guys feel about those? I mean, rivalry with Georgia, a little bit of Kentucky there, and I mean, certainly as a student here, I hated Florida.
I think those are pretty solid, permanent opponents, being bordering states and whatnot. I always like playing Georgia. It usually doesn't go our way most of the time, but I feel like that's a game that's supposed to be played every year. And of course, Florida, I need to make my way down to the swamp. And yeah, so I'm pretty happy with the permanent 3.
Yeah, I think they made Georgia. I figured was a guarantee. I really thought we were going to get Tennessee, and then I thought we would get Kentucky or Vanderbilt, one of those. I'm okay with Florida. I think we're catching them at the right time. As bad as we may have looked so far, that team inside the locker room and outside, that team is in shambles down there. So hopefully we're catching them at the right time. And Georgia's always going to be good as long as Kirby Smart's there. So just buckle your seatbelt. That's going to be, a slobber knocker every time we play them. So we'll see if the old years come to fruition with Georgia. If you guys remember, man, when we played them every single year, it was a tight game, no matter where we were ranked, no matter how good the talent was, or talent difference. So, but I got some Georgia family and friends, so I'm excited to get them back for sure.
Yeah, likewise. My dad's cousins actually went to Georgia, so it'll be fun having them back on the schedule. And I think, beatable too, like you mentioned there. Mr. Retweeter there. As Georgia again been a team that it's been a big upset potential, and then Florida. With the way they're going, I think South Carolina's at a better point to this point. But we'll see what happens with them and their coaching search, most likely upcoming this offseason. But yeah, we'll have to see how that goes again. in the permanent or the rest of the schedule too. You don't have to go to Austin till 2029, which I think is a win. On my first glance, what are you guys thinking as you saw the graphic and then the rest of the schedule too?
And I
Uh,
certainly don't. Go ahead, Morgan.
I haven't even got to see it yet, honestly. So I'll let Brad
So I
take
can
that.
pull it up here too.
Yeah, I mean, this will be just a straight off the hip because I'm just looking at it for the first time, like everybody, right? A couple things stand out. Missouri and Vanderbilt are off the schedule. Just those two recent losses back to back, right? That kind of stands out to me, at least for next year. Um, our our home schedule next year, I love outside of Georgia, of course. But I mean, we get Kentucky at home again, Mississippi State at home, and Tennessee and A&M. So we know how those have been recently at home. So at Alabama, uh, at Arkansas, and at Oklahoma, so it is what it is. I mean, I think when you dive into it, it's not going to be the hardest one out there. I saw maybe it's Tennessee's or somebody that looked pretty brutal. So I do like the we don't go to Austin until 29.
Right.
I am shocked that we don't get Texas for the first time until 27. I
Mm-hmm.
really thought after having Oklahoma the first 2 years, we'd get Texas next year.
Right.
Um, so just first glance thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as you can, I pulled it up on the screen. Everyone can kind of get a look at it before we kind of again wrap up everything with this Missouri game. I do like the fact again that you get go into the swamp out of the way early, right? Because who knows who they're gonna hire and if they haven't even fired Billy Napier yet, so. Whoever comes in, if they do fire him this offseason, like it's going to be the first year in the regime, and the swamp is a tough place to play. Again, I know you got to go back there in 2028, but at least you kind of get somewhat of a break on your permanent opponent. But with Florida there, but yeah, having Georgia at home next year is also really nice. So I don't know. First glance on this schedule, and I'm sure we'll be talking plenty more about this, this offseason as it comes up. But all right, so guys, as we transition, I guess, back into the game, as we keep going along here, effort was one thing, but just generally speaking, like, do you guys think what went wrong against Missouri is something to be worried about here going forward? Like, is it something that you think these guys can tune up with Kentucky? Like, was it a Missouri being good thing, or was it a South Carolina failing to execute on a lot of different things, and it's starting to veer off track kind of thing?
I think Missouri's definitely good. That duo of running backs is probably the best in the country, and Hardy is, in my opinion, the best running back in the country. So they're definitely a good team. But we started the game, well, and I think we had the talent to beat that Missouri team by 2 or 3 touchdowns if we could just get the procedural things cleaned up. If we didn't have 100-yard penalty yards, if we didn't have, I don't know the total number of missed tackles, but I feel like it was over 20. If we didn't have those things, if we could tackle on first contact, we would have won that game pretty comfortably. So I think it's things that can be cleaned up, but the fact that we had a game with that many missed tackles after having a bad tackling game versus Vandy, that kind of concerns me a little bit.
Yeah. Outside of the tackling being consistent, my concern, I guess, is there's some other things against Missouri that weren't there against Vanderbilt. Um, the rushing for one, running the football. Not that we looked great against Vanderbilt, but I think we were positive, right? We could run the ball a little bit. But then you have Lenore's came back and had a much better game, in my opinion, versus Missouri. Even if you look at the dropped interceptions, but on the defensive side of the ball, like Morgan just said, it's the same thing, man. It's lack of effort. It's not tackling, not wrapping up. Um, I bragged on Peyton Williams last week for leading the way on tackles, and love you, Peyton, but it was his missed tackle there that
Right.
they scored. Now they're down there at the 10, and he wasn't the reason they got down there at the 10, et cetera, et cetera. I get all that's not one person's problem, but you got to wrap up, man. You have to make tackles, and I think Morgan's right. I think if we do fundamental things right, this past Saturday, we win that game fairly comfortably, a touchdown or so, right? It's so that's frustrating. Um, so we'll see.
Yeah. Absolutely, guys. Do you guys? I guess what do they need to do this week against Kentucky? Like what does this game need to look like? Does it need to be a blowout or just a win and to get momentum back? Like how do we feel about Kentucky also entering? Who gave Ole Miss a game, but really that's been about the only life Mark Stoops has had up there.
I'll try to keep this as kid friendly as possible. We got to beat the ever living crap out of them, in my opinion. I think we need to listen. They're starting a new quarterback. Not that their other quarterback was good, but uh, we're at home. It's at night. It's already been announced that it's a sellout. Everybody knows that Gamecock Nation will be there. Let's give them a reason to be there for 4 quarters. I just feel like Beamer's up against the wall. He knows this is a must win. We're at home. I feel like we're going to blow them out. What that looks like, I don't know. My opinion to blow out in the SEC is is 2 touchdowns plus. So we'll see. They do run the ball well, which is a little scary after coming out of Missouri. But again, I think we'll tackle better, and I think that we'll score more points than we scored at Missouri as well.
Yeah, I'm with Brad. I think you have to win this game by at least 2 touchdowns. This Kentucky team's supposed to be the worst in the league. They're starting a true freshman quarterback. And once again, coming off a bad tackling game, we have all the motivation in the world, and Beamer's back is against the wall in some senses. So we need to come out firing. We need to tackle much better, and we need to run the ball too. We need to establish the run and continue to get some of these young receivers involved in the passing game, which we did some against Missouri, and I was happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was tweeting about Brian Rowe. Certainly had his breakout game on the road, and it's been fun to watch how Mike Ferry's brought up these or I recruited these young dogs, right? Like first off, having these guys ready to play when they got here, but then also seeing the development of them from camp and just quickly adapting to college football. It's been fun to watch, and Brian Rowe having his breakout game this week against Missouri.
You know, I'm glad you said that because I was actually going to touch on the wide receiver room as a whole.
Mhm.
Me and Zach from Famously Garnet were talking about this last night. The wide receiver room is the best room on the team right now and has been all year long. If you're watching tape and you're looking at route running and you're seeing where these guys are putting themselves and the catches that they're making, Ventravius Jacobs, um, that's the best room in on the team, in my opinion, right now. So um, I'm excited for those guys. I want to see a couple more guys get some run. I'm a little concerned, questioned on Mazio. Has he been passed up by Brian Rowe? Is there not a way to get both of those guys out there? I don't know. I think Mazio is a hell of a wide receiver, and we got to find a way to get the ball in his hands. Um, so, shout out to the wide receivers. Hopefully, the rest of the team can kind of come along as we move on.
I agree. The wide receiver room is definitely the best room on the team. Van Druvius had a great game. He's one of those guys we know he's capable of it. He shows flashes, but I'm glad he was able to finally put one together, a performance like that together. And also Brian Rowe, that was my breakout candidate for the freshman receivers. Watching high school tape, you can ask Brad. I've been raving in the chat about him all off season, so he's just showing flashes of what he's capable of as well. But yeah, they definitely got Lenore some help this year from a receiver standpoint. I just hope the offensive line can get it together so he has time to get it to him.
Yeah, most definitely. And Brad, your point about Mazio too. I've also been waiting for him for his big breakout. I know he was listed on the injury report last week. On the initial report, started off as questionable. He was probable on the second and third, and then available on game day. So I don't know if he's been banged up. I don't know if that's been a thing with him, but certainly want to see him getting more involved. But also, Mobo, to your point too, these young dogs have stepped up a lot behind him, and it's fun to see. Brian Rowe and then Murph obviously having showing glimpses as well. So a lot of big things out of this wide receiver room, and certainly to see, or certainly excited to see their development, guys. We talked about Kentucky a little bit too, but what's one room outside of the offensive line that you guys want to see, make the big step against Kentucky?
Uh, I would say I would have to say, I don't know. We've had some good DB play. It's been up and down, so I
Right.
don't know.
True.
Really, I don't really know if I have a specific room. I guess I can just say the DB room, but I just want to
Right.
see us improve tackling, man.
Hmm.
I know I sound like a broken record, but we have to get better at tackling.
Yeah.
Yeah, the defensive ends, we got to get home, which I guess is not always them, the linebackers and stuff too. But we got to find a way to get home, man. I felt like we were getting home against Virginia Tech and SC State a little bit, and I'm not sure we have had a sack in the last two games. I know we didn't against Missouri, or maybe we won one. Anyways, so I want to see some effort from those guys. I want to see some, again, like Mobo says, this is a true freshman at Williams Bryce at night. Let's make this guy hell, his life hell, right? Let's just chase him all night long. Um, so I guess the entire D line, but really those D ends, man. I want to see some guys coming off the edge and making some hits.
Yeah, most definitely. Defensive end room certainly could use it. I get more consistent, right? You want to see these dudes just not get frustrated. I know it's hard. He's been getting held and stuff like that. And certainly understand the frustrations. And again, as I mentioned in the show, certainly can't blame him. It's frustrating things as his fan base knows, like it's disappointment for sure, disappointing for sure. With where they're at right now, but I think this is where it comes around for these two, right? This is where guys turn into a leader, and he realizes it's like, hey, it starts at the top with me, and he starts leading by example. So certainly would like to see that with his development. Are you guys worried about him at all? I know Brad touched on him a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm worried, but again, it's a tough spot to be in. But certainly want to see the kid turn things around, because frustration, it happens sometimes.
You guys ever remember where something didn't go your way when you're 18 and 19 years old
Yeah.
after you worked so hard for it, or
Yes.
after you begged somebody for it, or wherever the case is? I'm not worried one bit, man. I think he's working his ass off, and he's just frustrated. Like you said, he's being held probably every play if you actually dug
Yeah.
into it. There's some very obvious ones. And he's just frustrated. He doesn't like to lose. Nobody on that team likes to lose. So I'm not worried one bit. Him, that whole alma mater walking off the
It
field.
happens.
It happens, and again, you're on the road, man. Like, I don't
Trying to
know.
get
Maybe he just simply forgot about it. Maybe he's just like, I'm ready to get to the locker room. Oh crap, I forgot we got to do that. Like, again, he's a kid, man. So
Nah, I'm not too worried about it. Just I pretty much agree with both of y'all. You get frustrated, and it has to be frustrating when you have a 350-pound man tackling to the ground every other play and getting holds and not getting the calls. I'm sure if he would get a couple of the calls against him, he wouldn't feel as bad. But the fact that they never call it against him, it just has to be frustrating, and it's just snowballing every week. So it probably just kind of boiled over a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And Clayton White's in his presser the last week when he was asked about it, he gave us the most, I guess, coach speak answer of yes, he's getting held on every play. He's like, well, I don't know. Like, if you look at Dylan, the frustration, stuff like that. So, I mean, I'll say it for Clayton White. Yeah, he's getting held on just about every play. But so I don't know. Again, I think the kid's development is coming along. This is just part of it, right? High energy player. So stuff like this is going to happen. I think this is where, you can really dive into it and chisel out, a leader out of that marble that is Dylan Stewart, if you will. So big turning point for the kid, and certainly nothing to be concerned about, again, unless it continues. If it continues, there's something to be worried about. But as of now, and again, I think the struggles with this team too. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but like, if the struggles with this team, if this were happening in week 7, week 8, we'd be a little bit more, like, everybody would be a lot more worried about this football team. I think right now, and internally too, and this comes from also too, Shane, having his ear to the ground and kind of going or supporting his guys, his coaches that are within the room. But I don't know if you can really call it how it is yet.
I hate
Yeah.
I hate to sound this way, but again, I'm the homer, and I'm gonna let Morgan come in on the backside and maybe throw some fuel on it. But I always looked at this game at Missouri as a potential loss on the schedule all year, all summer, all spring, simply because Missouri is our kryptonite. It's at Missouri. It's at night. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I think that a lot of people, rightfully so, are shell shocked on how bad the product looks and losing to Vanderbilt. I'm not even sure if this Missouri, you know what I'm saying? If we're sitting here at 3-1, I think the mentality is much different. If we're at 3-1, we're tackling. We're looking a lot better effort wise, et cetera. We're running the football. This is a lot different conversation. I say all that to say, um, get to 3-2 this weekend. Get to the bye week. Let's get healthy. And LSU's offense does not look that great. Um, who knows? Who knows what happens out there? I'm not giving up yet, man. I still think there's 7, 8, 9 wins here, but you got to play better. So
Yeah, we just got to survive, get to the bye week 3-2. We were hoping best case, obviously 5-0, but I agree with Brad. When I looked at that first five, I thought that at Missouri would definitely be the hardest game. Probably they were the most talented team out of the five that we play first, and being at Missouri, plus them being our kryptonite, that was a recipe for a loss. But yeah, I think that loss to Vanderbilt kind of is what really has people sour in the fashion that we lost to them. But yeah, if we can just survive this game, put a good product on the field against Kentucky and get to the bye week 3-2, hopefully we can evaluate some things and get some procedural things cleaned up.
let me throw just a quick question out there for both of you guys, real quick. How much, if any, of the defensive line's effort, lack of effort, et cetera, is on the fact that their leader is not on the sideline because of what happened?
Momo, go for it.
Uh, I, I really don't know, man.
Right.
Honestly, I don't really know. I see good effort from those guys. I haven't got to rewatch the game either. This game yet either. I was at a wedding Saturday actually, so I was watching on my phone. I didn't have the best view, but I know they're definitely ready to get him back, and hopefully when he gets back, they can get a little spark.
Yeah, I'm sure some of it's definitely missing T Rob, man. Like that's who started it all. I mean, at the beginning of the summer was in the trenches for him. Nothing against Jordan Dove because Jordan Dove is the next step. He's in that position for a reason, right? Like he is the best one equipped to handle that. But I'm sure it's dragging on the guys, and seeing T Rob like that is dragging on the guys a little bit. But also too, Brad. I mean, I think we saw it's just it is what it is. Like it's a step back from the defensive tackles you had last season, right? Like Alex Huntley was experienced and he developed, right? Granted, it took him till his 5th year to develop into an SEC, really, really good defensive tackle and effort on a lot of different plays and all that. But and certainly missing an element of T Rob's leadership with the hockey shifts and when exactly and his veteran experience. I mean, T Rob's seen a lot of football too, and so his experience, knowing when to make the subs and stuff like that certainly could be, playing in. And again, no shot at Jordan Dove. He's been doing a fantastic job, and he's getting his reps in too, like the football reps for sure. But I don't know. I think retweeter to answer that question, maybe a little bit like yes and no. I'm sure the guys miss T Rob. And they're missing a little bit of that veteran aspect, but also that we just kind of know that the talent's dropped off, and these guys aren't as developed or as developed's not a good word, finely polished, if you will, right? If you see what I'm saying. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but I'd love to hear what you think.
No, I think that's kind of where I was going with that is kind of what you talked about, the kind of the end game stuff, right? When to pull somebody, when to put somebody in, when to maybe shift somebody at a certain moment. And again, nothing against Jordan, and I'm not in practice, man. That guy knows more about football than I'll ever know, right? But and Sterling, I know those guys and all the assistants are coaching them up. And T Rob, from what I understand, is at practice. Hopefully he's will get back soon with us, get well soon. But just a question. I just wonder how much of that plays a
Yeah.
factor. I don't think it changes the two games outcomes. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And I don't think the effort's been bad on the D line all year at all. At
Yeah.
times, maybe, sure. But I think you hit it on that last piece too, man. When you look at how deep and how old we were last year. I think I tried to bury my head in the sand all summer.
Yeah.
A lot of us did, right? A lot of us liked the names that came in on the portal. We liked the past development and the fact that we can develop guys, and we will continue to develop guys, right? We've got 8 more games and another year or two with some of those guys. So So yeah, just curious how you guys felt about that.
Yeah.
I actually heard on the Welcome Home yesterday them talk about it, so I was curious to get y'all's opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And talking about, I guess, the linebackers too. I was listening, a little bit to a post game space as I was driving home from work, on Saturday night, and heard that the linebackers. I mean, it just wasn't up to the production, that you guys would think, and just wasn't, up to the standard. I mean, I would agree. Again, these linebackers have been playing with their pants on fire the first 2 weeks. And so, I think it's one of those things where, it's just a little bit of a dip. Like, you can't play like that every single week, especially against such a good opponent with Mizzou. Like, I mean, Eli Drinkwitz is pulling 1,000-yard rushers, out of the magic hat at this point. Like, the fact that Cody, like, he's had two guys almost consecutively break the school rushing record and do, those kind of things. So, as much as it is easy to harness in on the doom and gloom of this one from the South Carolina side, you got to give Eli Drinkwitz, his due as well. Like, he's got South Carolina's number, and I guess to the benefit of this schedule and everything, like, they're not one of your permanent opponents, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm glad that they're not a permanent opponent. They are a thorn in our side. I can't stand to look at Drink's face. He has one of the most punchable faces in the SEC, but he is a good coach, man. And like you said, he has our number, and we just have a hard time doing anything with him. They play good, fundamentally sound football. They don't have to have the best players, but when you're well coached and you play disciplined, hard nosed football, you're going to win games. And I think that's the product you see with them.
Missouri quietly wins 9 or 10 games every year. I think there's like 1 year they won less than 8 since he's been
Right.
there, or something like that. Missouri reminds me, it's going to be a weird comparison, but it's just what I thought about. Missouri reminds me of the Brock Purdy of the NFL. Like, nobody talks about him. He's so quiet, but he just goes about his business and wins ball games. Now I'm talking about when he first came in and when he first, the whole thing in San Francisco a few years ago when he had to get thrown into the action or whatever. But eh, Eli just wins games, man. I like the guy. I know he's quirky and dorky, etc. But if we were ever in a situation without Shane, I certainly would entertain the idea of that. The guy just wins. So don't
Yeah.
go anywhere, Shane. We love you. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right. Yeah, I know. My uncle is actually a Missouri grad, and I texted him post game and was just kind of like, "Yo, can you tell Eli Drinkwitz to leave South Carolina alone, man? Like, relax. Like, it's just one of those things where thorn in your side for sure. And one heck of a ball game last year. And anyone who went to that or watched that was certainly treated to a big South Carolina win there for sure. Guys, a little bit of optimism before we get you out of here, but give me one good thing to look forward to against Kentucky.
Uh, I think the defense will put a much better product on the field. Starting a freshman quarterback, hopefully the crowd can definitely, get in his head. Hopefully he won't be able to hear that. I'm not sure where Kentucky's played at this year, and I know that freshman hasn't started, so this is definitely going to be a big test for him. So hopefully the crowd can play a factor into it, and hopefully we can, like I said, tackle better, pin our ears back, and get some sacks from those edges, and then just have a better game overall.
Uh, yeah, just to Morgan, just to follow up there. So Kentucky has not traveled anywhere yet. They beat Toledo at home by 8. They lost at home to Ole Miss by 7, and they beat Eastern Michigan at home by 25. And they had a bye week already last week. So this is their first road game. I think we rush well. I think that we run the ball well, and I know that sounds really weird, and some of that may come from Lenoris. But I think that we run the ball much better. And I'm going to call my shot right now, and you guys are going to call me crazy, but I think we score 40 points. Now, hopefully, we don't give up 41.
Right.
But I just think that we're going to come out clicking. If you look at last week, man, we threw for 300 yards. People want to talk about dropped interceptions, blah, blah, blah. They were dropped. Okay. We've had those before. We've
Right.
dropped them before. So you can't talk about what ifs. We threw for 300 yards. If we just rush for 60, 70, 80, that game's different.
Right.
For instance, on one of those 3-and-outs there at the end of the game, if we could just gain a few yards rushing, we punt it and flip the field. Maybe they don't get that field goal to go up 9, and you get the ball back. Little things like that. I just think I think we run the ball better. I think the offense is going to look great this weekend, and I think we score 40 points.
I don't know if you're giving up 40 points to Kentucky or 41 points to Kentucky. So I
Well,
think that,
we got a lot different conversation if that happens. You're
and
right,
I
Joe.
mean, granted, like this defense gave up, 285 yards on the ground to Missouri, but that's like, I mean, that's a more like we've seen what that rushing attack can do up there at Mizzou. But no, I'm just teasing. I don't know. I don't think this Kentucky offense is as efficient nearly as Mizzou, but you got to be able to stop the run. But I like it. I think this South Carolina offense is due. They are due. I know baseball reigns supreme down here in the South, so give something everyone can resonate with. They are due. Guys, before I get you out of here, anything to plug? I mean, plug everything every week, but anything to say, anything to plug before we get you out of here and close things up?
Just a Twitter for me again at Mobo_1080, and hopefully we're much more positive next week. Sorry for the negativity, but that's just how I'm feeling this week. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it next week, guys.
Yeah, at Brad Sales 312 on Twitter, Gamecock retweeter. I'm just going to give a shout out to. I've seen a lot of positive tweets and comments and kind of some a lot different energy today on the Twitter sphere than Sunday. I just want to remind everybody. I heard a story today, and I won't name names, but I heard a story today about a student and a player maybe looking at some things online. And I'm not. This wasn't necessarily recently. My point is, people see these things. These guys see this stuff. So just be as positive as you can. I'm not saying don't give your opinion, but just be as positive as you can for these guys. And they bust their ass every day, man. And they don't like losing more than we don't like losing. So hopefully we come out, we show up against Kentucky, and we do this thing on next Tuesday, and everybody's happy and excited. So Jared, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, fellas. Appreciate you joining me on the Tuesday night, as always, as that wraps up the Pulse of the Fan Base, as we do every week here on the walkthrough, getting those guys involved. It's super fun and getting their takes, man. They shout it to me straight as it goes. So a little sprint to the finish here before we get out of here and wrap things up. John Mateer expected to miss 1 to 3 weeks, or expected to miss up to 3 weeks for Oklahoma, derailing his Heisman campaign a little bit. I think he broke a bone in his hand against Auburn. So interested to see how that pans out. I know Oklahoma's got the Red River rivalry on the 11th. Within these next couple weeks. So I would expect them to be back for that. But who knows? We'll see. And then South Carolina follows the Red River rivalry. So could be an opportunity for the Gamecocks to get one against a good team like Oklahoma, but expecting Mateer to be back at least for Texas, if not South Carolina, to kind of get things back on track for them. Let's see. Baseball, again, the Phillies pretty much clinching the bye. I know a lot of people that are excited about that. White Sox nowhere near the playoffs, so I don't really have anything to worry about for my baseball fandom. Just kind of going through. Mateer, that's pretty much it, really. I mean, around college football, obviously, the opponents was big. We talked about that. And my fantasy teams got killed, so I'm not really one to go for advice for that. So that'll do it for this week's episode of the walkthrough. Appreciate everyone joining me this week. Again, hope to have a lot more positive things to talk about next week with South Carolina hosting Kentucky at home. Night game at Williams-Brice. Get out there, be loud. You guys know the drill. And we will see you next week. Appreciate it. This has been the walkthrough presented by Tilly's Warehouse. Again, go check them out, 2000B Green Street, for all of your beverage needs.